got chips. How do you pay these guys?
Great cash, homie.
Leo the Lions, like now I go by the lineup. And if you can't make your mind up, you know where to find us. So don't go by blind luck, you should probably subscribe. Quick play, kick back, chill, and watch it ROI. And welcome. I am Leo. This is Leo the Lineup. Welcome back if you're returning. How's it going? How you doing? It's Wednesday evening. The Wednesday slate is just wrapping up. This video is in regards to Friday's Christmas slate. We have a 5-gamer. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into it. As you can see, I am going to use FanDuel as today's visual. Let's just start out with Giannis. We know they just lost to the Boston Celtics by 1 point. He had an okay game, nearly 53 fantasy points. It's not the 70 or 60 point game that you're looking for when you're paying $11,600 for a player. He's got a matchup against the Golden State Warriors, similar to the Nets playing the Warriors. There is blowout risk in this game. We've seen KD, we've seen Kyrie both lose minutes playing the Golden State Warriors just because they were winning by so much. Definitely at play here. Certainly can see the Bucks jumping out to a 20-30 point lead on Christmas. Seeing Giannis maybe get 25, 27 minutes and just not really being worth that price tag of $11,600. Moving on to Luka, who finds himself in a Showtime game against the Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. This game is actually currently going on, the game against Phoenix, the first game for his season. I believe he has 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists halfway through the third quarter. So kind of a slower game for his standards, especially with Kristaps Porzingis being out, having extra usage. 11,300, like I said. In a tough matchup against the Lakers. It's going to be a Showtime game. You know he's going to want to bring it going up against LeBron. I'm definitely going to choose Luka over Giannis just because I think Dallas can probably keep it close with the Lakers way more than Golden State's going to keep it close with the Bucks. And I think Giannis is going to lose some minutes. Luka will probably gain minutes if anything. So Luka for sure over Giannis. Leading me into King James himself. Apparently he turned his ankle against the Clippers. Doesn't expect it to affect the game against Dallas. Like I said, 28 minutes, turned an ankle, only put up 31.5 points. In this matchup against Dallas, I'm going to really just take my pick between him and Anthony Davis. He turned an ankle. Seems like Anthony Davis is fine. Both put up duds, so this kind of leads me into both players. Both put up duds against the Clippers. I'm going to go with the cheaper and apparently more healthy guy in Anthony Davis against the Dallas Mavericks, especially without Kristaps Porzingis. Seems like they're going to probably be weak as far as big men go. Davis should have his way with the Mavericks. Then that leads me into Jason Tatum. He and Jaylen Brown just led the Celtics to a 1-point victory over Giannis and the Bucks. Still not in love with that $9,800 salary price tag. However, nearly a 50-point game, 5x his salary pretty much. Not the greatest, but certainly respectable. He's got a matchup against Kyrie, KD, and the Brooklyn Nets. Figures to be a showdown, definitely a game stack type of game. Certainly worth consideration. However, like I said, I just don't like the price tag when you got people like Jokic right below him. Now, if you missed today's slate of games, today being Wednesday night, and you're wondering why I like Nikola Jokic, this weird, big-looking white dude, over Jason Tatum, well, because against the Sacramento Kings, 41 minutes, 29 points, 15 boards, 14 assists, 3 blocks, 71 fantasy points for under 10K, over 7x his salary, no matter how goofy-looking he is. Jokic seems to be in a great matchup against the Clippers as far as their big men. Serge Ibaka, Zubac, I don't think they're going to slow him down. Also in a good game for a game stack if you want to go that route. However, being the 6th highest priced player on this slate, you got to love Jokic. Already off to a 71-point start for the season. No matter how goofy he looks, like I said, got to like Jokic here. Leading me into the board man, the Claw, Kawhi Leonard. Kind of played second fiddle to Paul George, surprisingly, when they went up against the Lakers yesterday, I believe it was. However, nonetheless, going up against Denver. Figures to be a super competitive game. Rematch of the playoffs, actually, when Denver knocked them out. Kawhi Leonard probably has that in the back of his head a little bit, trying to get a little revenge. I don't think Paul George is going to lead the way 2 games in a row. Maybe he proves me wrong, but I'm going to put my money on Kawhi. Leading me into Mr. Flat Earther himself, Kyrie Irving, in a matchup against his former team, the Boston Celtics. Like I said earlier, lost some minutes against the Golden State Warriors in that blowout. The points per minute looks great, 25 minutes, nearly 36 fantasy points, under 9K, and should be a competitive matchup, game stack type of matchup. Gotta love Kyrie going up against his old squad. Taking me to the guy on the other end of that ass whooping against the Brooklyn Nets, Steph Curry against KD and Kyrie. He had 30 minutes still, even though they were losing by over 20, 30 points. Still put up 43 fantasy points. Similar situation here, going up against the Milwaukee Bucks. It is a primetime, showtime type of game. You figure he's going to bring it. Hopefully, if they find themselves down, they'll keep him in just for the fuck of it. Let him get some garbage time. Nonetheless, it's a little bit riskier giving up the matchup, but gotta like Steph here. Like I said in my earlier video, this leads me to Kevin Durant, the most underpriced player on the slate in my opinion. 24 minutes, 44 points nearly, 8,500 price tag they blessed us with again. Going up against the Boston Celtics, just like Kyrie, obviously. Should be a good game, should be competitive, should get 30 minutes. Should get 50 fantasy points or more. Gotta love it at 8,500. Probably the best value on this slate. Taking me to Bam Bam Adebayo. I would like for this price tag to be a little cheaper. However, against Orlando a little bit earlier today, did put up a modest 40 points. The ratio as far as salary is not the greatest. Like I said, I'd like him to be cheaper. Going up against the Pelicans, kind of goes hand in hand with the next guy, Jimmy Butler. Seems to be potential for a faster paced type of game. Leads me into Jimmy Butler also because he just smashed at a 8,200 price tag against Orlando. 35 minutes, 19 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists. Got 7 steals. You can't really depend on that very much. But Jimmy Butler in a matchup against all the young guys New Orleans has, Lonzo Ball, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. Jimmy's a dog. He's a savvy vet. I like his odds in this matchup as far as leading by example, and the price tag is even better. Now I skipped Porzingis because we know he's always hurt and he's not going to play. Taking me to Jamal Murray, coming in at a fairly expensive 7,800. He just put up a dud a little earlier against the Sacramento Kings, only 19 fantasy points. Probably going to lose ownership because of that game. No pun intended if you want to put your money where your mouth is. Think about that in regards to Jamal Murray and his Instagram Live. Cough, cough. However, he's probably going to lose ownership given the dud he just put up. If you want to put your money where your mouth is and kind of gain leverage, certainly pay up a premium for a guy who just put up 19 fantasy points. Nonetheless, certainly played very well the last time he played the Clippers in the playoffs, so you can bet on Jamal Murray. Taking me into another guy who kind of put up a dud today as far as expectations go. He was going against Toronto, kind of a tougher matchup. Didn't surpass 30 minutes. Barely got over 30 fantasy points. Going up against Bam Adebayo, the Miami Heat. Should be an interesting matchup. Kind of lukewarm on this. I like the bounce back potential. However, Bam is pretty damn good at defense. So a little bit riskier. I like Ingram more as far as Pelicans, but you definitely have to consider Zion, obviously. This leads me into Pandemic P, Playoff P, probably got lucky last game P, however you want to call it. Paul George, like I alluded to earlier in this video, he led the way, not Kawhi, against the Lakers to lead off the season. However, I don't really necessarily see that happening again. I'm going to bet on Kawhi personally, going up against the Denver Nuggets, who he kind of disappeared against in the playoffs. I don't think that's very relative to the situation, kind of a new season, new situation, new location, not in the bubble. However, still a fair price tag. Probably going to get a lot of ownership after that first game performance. I'm probably looking to fade, but I'm not going to blame you if you play Paul George. Now, I actually made a video, spent a couple hours to make a video in regards to Wednesday's slate, technically today's slate, because that's when I'm recording this video for the Christmas slate. But
One of my bold predictions was Jaylen Brown. We know no Kemba Walker. We know Gordon Hayward left to kind of free up some of that condensed wing situation that they had going on for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown had 23% usage last year, and that was in like the 83 percentile as far as wings go last year. So without Kemba, without Gordon Hayward, naturally there's going to be usage to be had with him and Tatum. Marcus Smart put up a dud, so he didn't take any of that usage in the game against Milwaukee, the 1-point victory for the Celtics. However, Jaylen Brown smashed, and at a great price of $7,500. He had 37 minutes, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, 2 steals, and a whopping 54 points. Going up against Kyrie, KD, and the Brooklyn Nets, going to be a tough matchup. Obviously, probably, hopefully going to be a competitive game. The minutes are going to be there. The usage is going to be there, probably no matter what. So with that price tag, he is almost a lock for me. Leading me into Chris Middleton at $7,400. The guy did all he could to help Giannis and Jrue Holiday against the Celtics today. 27 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, 54 fantasy points at $7,400. Not sure he's going to repeat that fantasy output. However, in a game that he could lose minutes, it's obviously going to also kind of get you away from there. I'm probably going to get away from Chris Middleton. Hopefully a lot of people are chasing that 50-point game that he just put up. I'm not going to bank on that 50-point output, and I'm not going to follow the ownership either, especially when he's probably going to lose minutes. So probably a no for me on Chris Middleton. So no for Chris Middleton, but this leads me into a guy that I absolutely love, Brandon Ingram. We know Jrue Holiday, not there no more. However, Eric Bledsoe, actually a sneaky good fill-in for him, who is going to be a value play on this slate for sure. Nonetheless, against the Toronto Raptors, Brandon Ingram put up 37 minutes. We know the minutes are going to be there. Nearly had a triple-double, 24 points, 9 rebounds, 11 assists. Gave you 3 steals just for the cherry on top at $7,300. The guy put up 60 points. Even with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo's defense, I like the matchup with Miami Heat as far as like a pace and kind of a offensive attractive game. Brandon Ingram I'm going to like more than Zion Williamson, as I alluded to earlier, and the price is right. Moving on from Brandon Ingram, that's going to take me to a teammate of his last year, and that is Jrue Holiday, making his opening appearance for the Milwaukee Bucks. Certainly got a shit ton of minutes, 38 minutes, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Certainly did all he could to try to gain that W against the Boston Celtics. They fell just short in a matchup against Golden State where there is blowout risk, like I've said numerous fucking times. And since I keep mentioning blowout risk, now it's going to be a super competitive game watch. And everybody's going to get 40 minutes. Nonetheless, if I was going to choose a Milwaukee Bucks player to roster from this matchup with that risk, it's going to be Jrue Holiday at that price, $7K flat. The output is there if it's anywhere close to that. I like it. Even with the minutes risk, give me Jrue Holiday. Taking me into no, I'm just kidding. Lonzo Ball. Certainly didn't blow away against the Raptors. Didn't blow anybody away with 29 fantasy points. This might be a play that's going a little under the radar. Like I said, the matchup against Miami. I'm kind of lukewarm on Lonzo Ball. Certainly like him more than this guy, Andrew Wiggins, who apparently lets everybody down always. But Lonzo Ball, worth consideration. But if I was to pick a Pelican, like I said, I like Ingram on that team. Leading me into the man who kind of embarrassed himself so much on opening day, you kind of felt it for him. Against the Nets, Andrew Wiggins, 31 minutes, not even 16 fantasy points, so about a half a fantasy point per minute player. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a bounce back game here, surprisingly. Crazier things have happened. He had the potential once. I don't know if he still does. I'm getting away, but you certainly can take a risk on Andrew Wiggins. I know the ownership is probably going to plummet after that performance against the Nets, so certainly leverage to be had if you believe in him. Moving on from the ever-disappointing Andrew Wiggins is actually going to be his teammate, Kelly Oubre, who I am far more willing to give a second chance. He let us down against the Brooklyn Nets as well, only 25 minutes. However, he did put up nearly 24 fantasy points. He's not nearly as scoring dependent as Andrew Wiggins, as only 6 of his fantasy points came by way of scoring the ball. He gets you rebounds, he gets you assists, he'll get you a steal or two. Maybe some garbage time for him. Hopefully a surprising competitive matchup makes that game more attractive. Nonetheless, definitely going Kelly Oubre on the wing for the Warriors over Andrew Wiggins all day. Taking me to Marcus Smart, who in the playoffs and in the bubble kind of had to turn into a three-point shooter, a playmaker type of player when he's more of a defensive grinder. Without Kemba, with no more Gordon Hayward, you thought that there would be some usage to be had from Marcus Smart. However, he put up a dud a couple hours ago against the Milwaukee Bucks. Pretty much all the usage went to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. This probably is going to dump some ownership from him, putting up that kind of dud. However, price tag is a little expensive for that kind of output, but there is leverage to be had on Marcus Smart. Goran Dragic, apparently his plantar fasciitis or whatever it was last year is feeling a lot better. Kind of a surprising play today. He came off the bench. He didn't start. A little priced up for a bench guy at $6,400. Only 25 minutes. However, he smashed 37 fantasy points, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Coming off the bench, 25 minutes. Kind of tough what to make of it. However, the points per minute are seemingly always there with this guy. Going up against New Orleans could be an offensive matchup. Gotta like Goran Dragic. The ownership might be chasing it though. Bringing me to Draymond Green, who seemingly hasn't played basketball in 10 years. However, has a foot injury and will also miss this game. Kind of making you have to think about giving Eric Pascal a second chance. Maybe Marquise Chris gets a little more than 12 minutes this game. James Wiseman, smash bot for sure. And right below Draymond Green, you'll see Kemba Walker still out, so that leads me into another value play, Jeff Teague, the point guard for the Boston Celtics. Got 25 minutes, but he just smashed a couple hours ago against the Bucks in that 1-point win. 19 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, 2 steals, nearly 38 fantasy points at that price tag is ridiculous. If he could repeat that or anything close to that, that's definitely going to be a value option for point guard. If you don't want to go Curry and Kyrie Irving, kind of to that similar to that opening 2-game slate where a lot of people were cramming Kyrie and Steph Curry as their point guards. If you don't want to go that route, Jeff Teague. Caris Levert getting that same price of $5,800 as he did on opening day, that 2-game slate where he actually put up 45 fantasy points in 24 minutes. I certainly don't expect that same points per minute output. 20 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 2 steals. Kind of got it done a little everywhere. I'm going to have a little bit of him just because the price is pretty decent, and if he actually gets a little bit more minutes against a Boston Celtics team that kind of should make that game pretty competitive. However, there's going to be a ton of ownership, so I'm not going to be above the field as far as that goes. A lot of people are going to be point chasing, but I probably will like to see him prove it to me twice. Caris Levert takes me to hopefully a sneaky shooting guard option. That's right, shooting guard this year on FanDuel, not point guard like last year, Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe, the type of guy for the Bucks last year who would only get like 20 to 25 minutes. Always frustrating because he's a pretty good fantasy basketball player. 34 minutes, so the minutes are there. That's great to know. Price tag is great, $5,600. Against the Raptors a little earlier, put up 31.4. Certainly not blowing you out of the water, but it's pretty good production for that price tag. It's actually pretty damn good. Hopefully he goes under the radar and people don't know that the minutes are like they are, because 34 for a guy who's usually getting 20, 25, and we're still considering last year. Eric Bledsoe's a smash play. Moving on from Eric Bledsoe is a guy who kind of looks like the caveman from those Geico commercials. However, at the center spot, he is worth your consideration. That's Steven Adams, playing for the Pelicans now, no longer on the Thunder. 30 minutes against Toronto a couple hours ago. 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. Found 4 steals, surprisingly. Can't bank on those steals. Put up 40 points. Nonetheless, at that price tag, definitely a center option for sure. Moving from one center option at 5,500 to yet another center option at 5,500 is Serge Ibaka. Only got 20 minutes against the Lakers, certainly disappointing. However, still managed to put up 24 fantasy points. If the minute output for the next game or the season is anything like the last game, I'm going to be looking elsewhere. So in this particular matchup, I'm going to take Steven Adams with the minutes and maybe gamble a little bit on Ibaka. Taking me to yet another underwhelming center option, 5,400 this time, going up against Wiseman and the Golden State Warriors. Brook Lopez, I'm not really getting there much just because he put up a dud. Probably going to take an ownership dip because of it, but Brook Lopez, no. Now enough of these underwhelming center options. Going to the chalk of the day on Christmas, as far as the Christmas Day Slate, Michael Porter Jr. finally unleashed in the regular season. Even if it was overtime, only 29 minutes, still managed to put up 46 fantasy points. That's going to garner a lot of ownership naturally just because people are going to be box score chasing and seeing that points. However, super cheap price, going to be chalky, but you got to eat it. Super warranted, Michael Porter Jr. From one potential lock to maybe another, Dennis Schroder certainly turned some heads. His Lakers debut, 27 minutes, flirted with a triple-double, 40 fantasy points, coming in at a 5K flat. Gotta love Dennis Schroder. Going to be chalky, but once again, probably going to have to eat that chalk because it is warranted. This will lead me to a couple value plays. Tristan Thompson, I believe he started for his new team, Boston Celtics, against the Bucks. Only 22 minutes, only 4,600, however, still put up 23 fantasy points. Going up against the Brooklyn Nets, they probably need his toughness and rebounding. JJ Redick for the Pelicans. Against the Raptors, 28 minutes, put up 27 fantasy points. A lot was dependent on points in general, but nonetheless, 4,500 going up against Miami. Gotta like him. Dante Vincenzo seems to be filling in for George Hill apparently. 27 minutes against Boston, put up 30 fantasy points, only 4,500 himself. Gotta consider him. James Wiseman, obviously he got a little extended garbage time and a little more acclimation to the NBA. However, 31 fantasy points, put up 19 points, 6 rebounds. Looked smooth, looked athletic, looked good. Blowout potential in this game. Nonetheless, he should have minutes, whether it's a blowout or a competitive game. James Wiseman, probably another lock of the day, $4,200. And as far as the visual, that's just about going to do it. I'm going to go over my value plays that just are worth consideration. Jeff Teague, 5,800. Eric Bledsoe, 5,600. Remember, this is all FanDuel pricing. Still pretty close on DraftKings. Dennis Schroder, even 5,000, looks great. Tristan Thompson, 4,600. James Wiseman looks great at 4,200. Pat Bev looks acceptable at 4,200. JJ Redick looked great at 4,500. However, it was points dependent. Put up 27 fantasy points though, 23 real points. Dante Vincenzo, even though he was traded and came back, doesn't appear to be awkward. Seems to be filling in for a George Hill type role. Had a really great game, 4,500. Duncan Robinson, the minutes are there, super cheap. Josh Hart, getting a fair amount of minutes. And then just value based on kind of the studs and the higher priced guys. I think KD is severely underpriced. That's Kevin Durant, 8,500 versus Boston. Brandon Ingram, 7,300 versus Miami. Jaylen Brown, 7,500 versus Brooklyn. Jimmy Butler, 8,200 versus New Orleans. Paul George, if you want to chase that route, if people are chasing his first game output, going up against the Nuggets, 7,600. And then even if it's a blowout and they lose minutes, Drew Holiday at that 7K flat price. Gotta love it. Other than that, if you're new, feel free to hit me with a subscribe. If this video was informative or you liked it in any way, feel free to tell me that by hitting me with that like. But until next time, guys, peace out.